So in this video today, we're going to go over the parapet. Keep in mind you can do a parapet evolution off of the ladders as well, but this specific video is going to be for truck 53. And we'll go over the setup of it and everything else in the later parts of this video. One of the things I wanted to touch on before we get into that stuff is the actual the concept of the parapet itself. So in a previous video, what I mentioned to everybody is you want to pre-plan any evolutions like this. When you actually get on a call, the last thing you want to do is put this thing up in the air and then realize at that point you have to do a parapet evolution, and now you're scrambling, and now you're having guys go down the ladder, pick up the roof ladder, and do all that in gear on an angle. It's not the safest way, or it's not the most efficient way to get this evolution done. So make sure before you do the parapet evolution, you're pre-planing this on the ground. You're looking at your scupper holes and you're seeing where the drains are. Have a rough estimate of how high your parapet's going to be. That we can set this up on the ground, and you can fly it from the ground to where your location's at, and it's going to be done a lot faster and it's going to be done a lot safer. So today I have Firefighter Graham and Firefighter Bonte with me. We're going to go over the parapet setup and how that's supposed to be done. So your equipment's going to be in the little box there. What you have in that box is you have two lift arms. Also included in there, you're going to have an extension belt. And we can talk about the reasons for the extension belt later once we actually get the setup done. So each lift arm is going to go one on either side. As you can see, there's a little black roller on the inside of those. That's going to be where the beams of the ladder go to. The other component to this, you're going to have on the ladder here, and you'll see them go for it in a second, there's a 16-foot roof ladder. That's the other component that's going to be used for the parapet. So as you can see, Firefighter Graham's over here. He's putting his pins in to secure the lift arm onto the bucket, and that same process is done on either side. It's just a self-locking pin, so once it clicks into place, it's good to go. Also on top of those lift arms, you can see there's an orange belt. The orange belt is not necessarily used for the parapet. That's going to be for our Stokes basket if there's any type of rescue operation that's going on. So those you can just belt them together and keep them out of the way. So right now they're going over to where the ladder's at. Again, it's a 16-foot roof ladder that's basically clipped in by a little bracket there in the middle, which you can see I'm pushing right now. This can be done with one firefighter, but I would recommend using two firefighters to do it just for ease of the operation and for safety. So you can see what they did right there. It kind of goes on the concept of working smarter, not harder. Instead of carrying the ladder the whole way, what they're doing is they're using that the little safety beam there to roll it across, and then they're putting it on the little black rollers on the lift arm, and then from there it takes a lot of the weight off the ladder, and now one firefighter can push while the other one helps secure it. So what Firefighter Bonte is reaching for right now is the rung pin. So you can see on the sides of the rungs you have a hole. That bar right there is going to go through whichever rung they choose depending on your circumstances, but it's going to go through the rung and it's going to attach on the other side. That's what secures the ladder to the lift arms. So it slides through, and then on the other side there's a pin that goes through. So you put the pin through, flip it down, and that secures it into place at this time. So here's a close-up of the rung pin and that securing pin that goes on the other side. So you can see he just places that piece through and then flips the circle part around, and that keeps that attached, and it's not going to slide back through on the other side. And then from there, they're lowering the ladder. And then you'll see, I'm going to zoom back in again, you'll see Firefighter Bonte on the inside of the bucket, and we'll show you that a little more closely here in a minute. But on the inside of the bucket, there's that window or the flap that comes down, and on the inside, what he has right there is the rung latch. What that's going to allow us to do is to latch the rungs of the ladder to the bucket, so that way the ladder is not going to be a free moving ladder during the operation. So we're inside the bucket now. We have a more close-up view of this. So this is that, that door that you would open. There's a latch on each side. So as you see what Firefighter Bonte is doing right here, you actually have to lift the ladder and push it away a little bit, so that way you can get the rung latch over the rung, and then you can pull it back, which locks it into place. All right, so now we're going to go over the process to actually exit the bucket and climb down the parapet. But before we show a visual of that, what I wanted to talk about was the doors on the bucket. So each side of the doors are a breakaway door. The purpose of that is for any reason if you had to exit the structure, whether it's the roof or if you had this up against a window, those doors will break away. So if somebody is jumping on a window or just needs to get in, it's an easy push through and that opens up. So that's something to definitely keep in mind there. So now Firefighter Bonte and Firefighter Graham are going to come down the ladder. What we have, as I mentioned before, there's an extension. It's a piece of webbing. It's got a carabiner on one side, carabiner on the other side to hook in, or an eye on one side, carabiner on the other. And the purpose of that is to get over any unsafe transition. So if you're on a parapet, the last thing you want to do is come out of there, trip, stumble, or whatever, and then next thing you know, you're falling to the ground. So we have this extension that it won't always get you to the ground, but it's a way to get you on the ladder and safely down the ladder to a workable point before exiting off. So as you saw, Firefighter Bonte had that clipped in, got as far down as he could, stepped off the ladder, unclipped, and then you have Firefighter Graham, who is still inside the bucket, pulls that back up, and he's able to hook himself back in. And that alleviates any, I don't want to say any, but that will alleviate a lot of safety issues when it comes to exiting the bucket and climbing down the actual ladder for the parapet. The other thing I just wanted to touch on too, when you have this thing set up on a roof, obviously we're not on a roof right now as you can tell, but when you have this set up on a roof, you want the ladder latched as we showed you before, which is going to be right up here in the middle. You can see how it's latched. And then the other thing that you need to keep in mind is the tips, or the butts of the ladder. You don't want the butts of the ladder to actually be touching the ground. It's kind of deceiving where you're at now, but you're actually off the ground by probably about maybe 12 to 16 inches is where we're at right now. So just keep in mind you don't want to have the butts on the ground, and you want that first rung to be anywhere between 18 and 24 inches off the ground, so you have a safe stepping distance from the rung to the roof and vice versa from the roof back to the first rung. All right, so now we're going to go over putting the lift arms back into the box that they come in. This is what some people say is the hardest part of this whole evolution. All right, so as you see, he took the bulkier end and put that side in first, and then he's doing the opposite on this one. The end that has your roller, that has your eye on it, that's going in second. And as you see, if you put those in opposite of each other, they should go in fairly easy, and it locks up pretty fast.